Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Okay, Dustin, are you there, Dustin? Okay, well, I guess he's going to be our producer for the first half of the show. My name is Robert Press. Welcome to Parrot TV, Talking Politics. And I have my co-host on my right, or my left if it's on your screen, Anthony RIVIECCIO. So, Anthony, why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll get right into it.
Good morning, everyone. And good morning to our new producer, Dustin, wherever he is in cyberspace. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO. I, of course, as I like to share with everyone, have three lives. My first life being an adjunct professor of personal finance at both Herbert H. Lehman College as well as Monroe College. My second life being the founder of a wonderful political club in the Northwest Bronx called Northwest Bronx Democrats. And my third life, which is currently getting my hair grayer by the minute, is that I am an income tax and financial advisor for RIVIECCIO Financial Advisor.
Okay, let me just show you my press card if I can get it in here. This is an official New York City press card showing you that I am a reporter. People are wondering why I'm running for district leader in the 80th Assembly District. And I'm getting calls not to run, but we'll get into that a little later. Right now, I just want to say the funeral for Officer Jason Rivera has just finished, and the motorcade is heading towards the cemetery. I must say, it hurts me when I see this. I was on the scene when Officer Tutaro was killed from the 43rd Precinct. I was the first reporter there. There was a cadet with his hand shaking. If you can see my hand, his hand was like this. The officer was shot, the sergeant was shot, the other sergeant was killed, and this cadet was the one who killed the perp. This is a very similar situation where two police officers had a cadet with them. They were training. They went in. Both officers wound up being killed. One immediately, he was DOA, and the other one died a few days later. He did help 5 people, though, by giving organs to 5 different people as an organ donor. So that's the good thing that can happen out of it. But if this cadet was not there, this cadet shot the perp in the head, and he died a few days later too. If this cadet was not there, this perp would have been out on the street, and who knows who else he would have killed. It's a very sad thing. Any funeral is a sad thing. Anybody who dies of anything, cancer, AIDS, COVID, any type of death is not a good thing. But and I must say one thing, Anthony, during the funeral, our police commissioner was very powerful in her speech, just like she was at the hospital. And I just hope she can continue this throughout the term. And she doesn't realize that she's got a very tough job and decides, I can't do this, I'm leaving. All right, because she seems like she's a very good police commissioner. Any comment on this?
I did not hear her speech. Of course, I'm aware the funeral was this morning. I also am aware that our new police commissioner, from her past experience, is very strong on crime. Again, I did not hear her speech, but what I hope, and I'm sure many New Yorkers hope, is that, we start to see all these strong words turn into strong action. I'm not going to go into the details of the sad situation that took place because, like you said, it's sad. I want to be able to, and I'm sure many New Yorkers want to be able to pick up the newspaper and not read, these types of things. So, my prayers are to the family, and my prayers are to a safer New York. So, words are great. She's good for words. I just hope that between her and the mayor, and of course, all the muckety mucks in between, they turn it into action.
Well, we're seeing a little pushback on what Mayor Adams wants to do, but we can get into that later if we have time. Let's do our usual agenda of world news. Now, we have a couple of wars outside of us, and it's strange because all of a sudden we're now maybe involved in several wars. We went through 4 years of peace, didn't we, Anthony? Anthony.
Boy, is that a good question. I don't I don't know if I'd call it peace. I would call it strict negotiations, if I had to call it that.
Well,
And do we have the right to be strict? Of course we do. We're talking about our country, right? So we have the right to defend our interests. That should go without saying. But I think what you might be trying to say is 4 to 8 years ago, from a global perspective, we were probably in a much better and safer place than we are today. Looking at the actions of North Korea, looking at the actions of Russia and Ukraine, looking at the situation in Yemen. You put all those things together, those things weren't as active, from a prior administration or even the Obama administration, as it is now.
Right. And, it started with the Afghanistan withdrawal. We heard President Biden say that, President Trump made a deal with the Taliban so that they wouldn't attack us. And what happened? He made a deal with the Taliban, too, so they wouldn't attack us. But that didn't work. We saw what happened with that. But let's move on. The Ukraine. What do you think is going to happen in the Ukraine? We have the U.S. and allies on one side. We have Russia on the other side trying to rebuild the Soviet Union. What is your opinion on what's going to happen there?
Oh, Lord, I'm not an expert on foreign policy, but I must admit I'm a former U.S. service person. So, defending our national interests at home. I happen to be a former service person who's of the minority of the beliefs that our interests are more best served at home as opposed to abroad. My common joke, but it's a serious joke, is that if I was ever elected president, God forbid, right? If I was ever elected president, one of the first things I would do is I would tell every U.S. service person to come home tomorrow. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to get a job because I got their job for them. What they would do is they would come right home, and that wall that President Trump was talking about?
Yes.
Well, instead of a wall full of wood, I'd rather have a wall full of servicemen, right? All loaded up with guns. And I don't care about Russia. I don't care about China. I don't care about any other country except when we talk about economic interests. So I'm a little scared to answer your question because, again, those are my thoughts about foreign policy.
We're going to go into a topic in a second, but since you mentioned that you would put the servicemen at the wall, it brings up something that Congressman Bowman went down to the southern border, and the only thing we heard from him was, I saw 20 men in a cell. And when I said I'd like to interview you about your trip to the southern border, because I know that AOC went down there, a Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, a year or two before, and she found things. But what did Congressman Bowman find besides 20 men in a cell? Was it a waste of taxpayer money or not? I just want to know, and he still refuses to give me an interview or answer any questions about that southern border trip. But let's move on to Bidenomics now, one of your favorite topics. And I'll just leave it open to you, but I'm sure this war or these possible wars are affecting our economy.
Well, see, now that's a very interesting way to put it, because let me, I guess, tell you both the truth and the myth of that statement. Foreign policy affects U.S. economic policy approximately 10 to 15%. Now, from the other side of that country, it could be a very dramatic change. So there are countries, for example, that between import-export, where it might only affect 10% of our GDP, it could affect another country's GDP as much as 30, 40%. So in our country, it's about 10%. Is it worth talking about? I don't know. I'd rather talk about the other 90 cents. So let's talk about the other 90 cents and let's see what it's worth. Let's talk about economic indicators that have come out in the last 24 hours. I'll share a few with you. You may or may not know that now, and these stats that I'm going to share with you, by the way,
I'm listening, and I hope our audience is listening.
It's going to be year over year. So the stats I'm about to share with you are basically all of 2021. So let's talk about inflation. Inflation has now been designated year over year, and forgive me, I'm looking at my notes in regards to this, is now at 6%.
Wow.
Right? I think we basically all know that prices have gone up, but just so you know, from an economic viewpoint, they're now at 6%. Of course, a year ago, a little over a year ago, inflation was constantly at 2% or below. It is now at 6%. Personal income year over year is now at 2.4%. It's actually gone up. However, consumer spending year over year has gone down 7%. So what does all that mean? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think good economists have figured that specific part out yet. But I think it's safe to say this. Consumption from the consumer level, which constitutes 60-70% of our economy, our GDP, well, those numbers to me.
That's gross domestic product.
That is correct. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Thank you. So, what those numbers represent to me is that 60-70% of our economy is obviously not jugging along. They're not spending, and it's partially because of the inflation prices. Where is that extra income going? Well, we haven't determined that yet. It could be for paying bills. It could be for going into the bank. If it's going into the bank, could be going for that too. Or it could be going into New York online gambling, right? Which is booming.
Yes.
But we won't go there.
Wait a minute. I have a question for you, Anthony. If consumer spending is down and people still aren't paying their rent, where is that rent money going?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm gonna say safely that it obviously varies from state to state. I think it's fair to say, and I think this is where you might be going, is that New York State has created, I don't know what to call them. What do I want to call them? Social service-based programs in the last.
It's a rent exemption program or something like that, where the state has put away $15 million again to pay rents or something like that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't overhype that, Robert. I was on the phone yesterday actually with some of the muckety mucks over there because I have some
hoops you have to go through
that are indirectly affected. That program has people in pending mode since October. So is it there? Yeah. Is it funded? I don't know. All I know is that from the consumer end and from the landlord end, they're all in pending mode since October.
Right. And basically, I know some landlords and they're crying. And we have to look what maybe our former council member, whose family is heavily into real estate, maybe he didn't run for re-election because he had to take care of the problems that his family real estate business is having. All right. If you own many buildings, which his family does, and you're going through this rent moratorium, how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to pay your water bill, your electric bill, your gas bill? How are you going to pay for oil if you're not getting money from rent? That's a big question.
It is. It really is. Of course, being a financial advisor, I work on both sides of that coin, and I very frankly understand both sides. I don't know what the answer is, except to say that if our government says, we're here to help you, which I'm sure everybody is glad to hear, the process of helping, talk about clogs in the system. Like I said, again, people are on both sides have basically been in pending mode since October. I will say that, and I hope this reaches through to somebody, that the utility companies have been helpful in the sense of pretty much saying, well, of course, we're still going to bill you, but at the same token, we're going to follow the rules of New York in regards to the moratorium. Now, of course, the moratoriums have expired. So the utility companies are now, as we speak, deciding what to do. What they were basically doing because of the moratorium was they were asking for the bill, but if you didn't pay, that was fine. They just, kept the bill going. But now utility companies do have, a more direct option.
Right. And as we spoke, I told you my Con Ed bill, okay, the cost per kilowatt has almost doubled in this past month, which I couldn't understand. Con Ed said, oh, we need to put a new meter in your area, your apartment, because we don't know if the right numbers are coming through. They were charging me for 105 kilowatt hours or 106 kilowatt hours. And you know what? On this new meter, it's still the same number. It's the same exact usage of electricity. So I don't know what was wrong with the old meter. All I know is I have a smart meter, and it's costing me more. So, is this a gimmick by Con Edison to get money back to raise their rates? I thought they had to have them approved by the Public Service Commission. But let's move on if you want. You have anything else to say about this?
Well, just finishing up on Bidenomics. I think it's very important that if you allow me a minute or two, to talk about income tax season. And what I want to do is talk about elements of tax season as the season, progresses. We're basically talking about 3 months. What I want to talk about now is the beginning of income tax season. And because of the beginning of income tax season, you have a lot of scams out there, and that very, very much worries me because, taxes are very important. We need to understand how they inflect in our lives. And of course, yes, we want $1 million refund, but we don't want to do all types of crazy things as well. One simple example, and again, I emphasize caution with it, right now, between now and February 15th, you'll see all these commercials about getting your taxes done for free, right? And in real simple, in real, small terms, it will say for simple taxes only, right? And that represents about 5 to 10% of Americans. 5 to 10% of Americans do legitimately have nothing. They just take the standard deduction. Where do I sign? And that represents about 10% of Americans. And it's, in one sense, good to know that companies are willing to do it for free. However, without mentioning any specific companies, ask them, well, how would you get that money back, right? And they would emphasize to you, oh, well, we have a card. We have a boom, boom, boom card, the company card. Right. That you can use to, take the money. Yeah, and of course, this is the company card with their affiliated bank, ABC Bank. I don't want to mention.
Right, a debit card, you're saying.
Right. And again, I don't want to mention any specifically because, banks make these relationships with tax companies. Well, we're on the same relationship every year and we turn it down. And the simple reason is because every time you use the card, for whatever the reason, deposit, withdrawal, transfer, whatever it is, breathe on it, it's going to cost you at least $5 to $10 a transaction. So is it free? Of course not. It's not for free. And then, of course, not only do they take advantage of the 10%, but what about the other 90%, right? The other 90%, so you got to go, oh, wait, maybe it applies to me, right? And then, of course, the representative of the company will reach out, to that person and talk about their services. So, I just, again, it's the beginning of tax season. You're going to see all these commercials. I understand that one company has their traditional Big Bird or their Santa Claus outfit. They're out there handing out, the flyers. Again, I emphasize caution because bottom line, nothing is for free, right? Including this show.
Well, I can disagree with you on that, Anthony. Okay, if you know what you can do and how to get it for free. For instance, my daughter got my family a free mattress, a Tempur-Pedic mattress. Okay, she was doing a blog, and she had an opportunity where she was sampling products, and we got products sent to the house, whether it be shampoo, whether it be soap, whether it be anything, to try it. And we even got food sometimes to try and then give the opinions, because you're supposedly the writer. I myself have been the food critic for 2 different papers.
Yeah, but Bob, you're not talking about a free service. You're talking about things companies do every day called promotional items.
Right. Well, yeah, you're right on that. Promotional items, right. Okay.
And it's no different than Big Bird being out on the corner saying, here goes a $50 discount. It's a promotional item.
Right. So let me ask you, though, Anthony, this is 1 year of Joe Biden already. How does it compare to the last year of Donald Trump economically? Can you give me an answer on that?
That's a real good question. Economically speaking, I really don't know. If I had to give it a grade, I would actually have to give it an INC, incomplete, because things he wanted to do did not get done. Some of the things he has done, I think, are going to have a negative effect on our economy. Our economy is not as booming as his economic experts proclaim it is. At best, I'm going to give it an incomplete. If I wasn't allowed to give it an incomplete, I'd probably go further down with my grade.
Well, I see our producer has put up a photo or photos of the fire from where 17 people were killed. Now, what you see is a picture of new Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson. To the right of the photo is Councilman Oswald Felice. To the left are 2 members of AT&T, the corporate structure. One is Timothy Tapia, and the other one is his boss. I forgot her name. I've seen her at events like the Bronx Borough President, former Bronx Borough President, had the Borough President's Cup between Little Leagues at Yankee Stadium, where she was, but her name escapes me right now. What you see is that the Borough President, they got from AT&T for 100 of the children that lived in the building where the fire was. They got 100 of these little Samsung Chromebooks or whatever, laptops to give to the children because they didn't have anything. Whatever happened, it went in the fire. And you see the woman from AT&T holding a backpack that also went to the children that is filled with whatever the child needed for school. And this picture here this is my picture that I took at the event. And our borough president, I said to her, and you can see me cracking up a little, because I cover Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, and she is wonderful with children. She is terrific. She can hold the little baby, and the little baby will be so quiet as if she's in her mother's arms. And I watched, and I have other pictures of Borough President Gibson, and she reminded me of this. She was exactly like Congresswoman Ocasio. And if you notice, she's handing the book bag to the child who has the tablet in her hand. And Councilman Felice, unfortunately, he's just got married. I don't know how he can handle children, but the children were basically walking right by him to get to the new borough president. She had that warmth. And I asked her, and she says, "Oh, that's because I'm natural with children. I have in my family 3 young children that love me." and it's amazing. And really, hopefully, we're going to have a great borough president for the next 8 years. All right. This is something, and she's been with the families from the fire, and she's been throughout the borough. Okay. Later today, she'll be up in Lakefield helping Carl Hasty, Jeffrey Dinowitz, and a few others, Councilman Riley and State Senator Bailey, which I'm trying to go up there if it doesn't snow. Right now, there's a little flakes out there, and they say later on, we're going to get 6 to 12 inches, depending on where we are. And I just want to say something about forecasting. I remember 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Bob, let's not get into the weather report. Let's get into that picture that you got up there. So first and foremost, let's congratulate what's happening there.
Yes.
What's happening there is, of course, people affected with the fire are getting resources. Let's call them resources.
Right.
As I know, and I'm sure you know, and our audience should know, the real provider of those resources, I'm going to give them a little bit of a clap, is AT&T provider Timothy Tapia. Of course, everybody is there for the show with the glow. As far as Vanessa Gibson being good with children, well, like you said, so is Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, and neither of that surprises me because we're talking about two single women that I'm sure have relatives with children, but don't have children themselves. So, like myself, being an adult with no children, I have a particular fondness for children. So that shouldn't be surprising. Mr. Roswell Felice, as far as children go, like you said, he's recently married, and my standard joke is, you know, I've got a financial advisor card, and I got a division that handles both marriages and divorces. So I'm sure he's looking at those children and saying, "Oh my God, is that next?" And
how many children do you think Councilman Felice will have?
How many?
Yeah.
Oh my God, if his wife was, you know, Robert, if his wife is watching, she's going to kill both of us. So to answer your question, I suspect he'll have 2.
Oh, I expect him to have at least 3 or 4.
Really?
Yes. Yes. Because I'm sure he wants to see more little Oswalds in his family. Okay.
Does he look like he's in athletic shape enough to do something like that?
Sure. Sure,
Okay.
he is. But also, by the way, I forgot to mention that AT&T is giving 6 months free Wi-Fi to the tablets, you know, to the children for the tablets. But
that's correct. And Timothy Tapia, just so you know, people in the North Bronx need help too. Go ahead.
But what, you know, I saw a similar thing down in the South Bronx where tablets were given to children and 6 months service by T-Mobile. But what happens after the 6 months? Where did children get the internet from? Are they going to have to pay for it or not? That's the question.
You know, this is where real resources, you know, mean a lot. You know, I've spoken to a lot of people off air about this new fund that was created, you know, the Bronx Fund. That's a sort of a borough copycat from the mayor's fund.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's getting support from everybody, from Queens to Jamaica, Queens to the country of Jamaica, and everyone in between. So someone asked me yesterday or the day before yesterday the same question, but in regards to their rent. Anthony, what's going to happen to their rent? Well, I'll tell you what, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't get an extra 3 months rent, because from what I hear, as of a couple of days ago, the fund got $5 million, and this was before all of these wonderful extra celebrity contributions are now coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to tell me that how many families were affected? 107, right? But how much is that in rent bill?
No, it was 107.
That's not 107,
Anthony,
right? I think that's more like 70.
No, it was 107 apartments, and in each apartment you had 2 or 3 families sometimes.
Okay.
So you may have had 150 to 200 families affected.
Okay. So I'm going to presume, or I would hope that the people in charge of this Bronx Fund would say, hey, your rent's up. You know, maybe we can stand 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. right? I mean, why not give them the money from the fund? We have seen nothing but 2-3 weeks of what do I want to call it? Electoral uh, demands for justice and help, right? So we now got this Bronx fund that everybody's putting money into every day. Oh, why not give it to them?
Well, the solution is, Anthony, that people are being told as of January 24th, they were no longer able to stay in hotels. All right. And they were being told to go back into their apartments if they were habitable. Right. If they didn't want to go back to the building, other housing would be provided for them. So right. This has to be watched and this has to be followed up. To make sure, and I'm sure it will. I'm sure our borough president will take care of it. I'm sure she'll keep watch on it, unlike our previous borough president, who was very lax when it came to policy. And as we see, his legacy will be the Kingsbridge Armory. And what's happened now to the Kingsbridge Armory, Anthony? They got to go back to square one, don't they?
According to the recent report of Councilwoman Karina Sanchez, she is asked for and will get a community executive board meeting with Community Board 7, who oversees that process, to start what I would call a collective survey. And as much as that might sound corny, sadly, that's very important, because the community as well as the government have been trying to negotiate this situation for over 3 decades. So we're finding out that the community needs of 3 decades ago are obviously different today. So Ms. Sanchez, Councilwoman Sanchez, is about ready to initiate a process with CV7 to get community input, but more, informational input as to what the community wants. I've heard a variety of different things, but I know that Ms. Sanchez is very adamant about getting community input and starting the process over. The end answer is that we're back to square zero, or as Ms. Sanchez says, we're now at scratch.
Right. And I remember I was affiliated with City Councilman Israel Ruiz when they put the new roof on the building. And then this is back in the 1990s. So you're talking now 20 years, it's remained empty. All right, through 2 borough presidents.
Let me just slightly correct you in regards to that statement, only because the admiral will kill you. Remember, I'm not going to say that Israel Ruiz did not help. He did help, but the money, the actual money that paid for that roof, came from Assemblyman Jose Rivera.
Well, you mean from the state?
No, it's our tax money.
What?
So forget the state, forget everybody. I'm going to congratulate you, and I'm going to congratulate me, and I'm going to congratulate our audience, because it was our tax money that put the new roof there. And you're right, it was, I believe, 1996, I believe.
So now what kind, we had the Northwest Bronx Church and Clergy involved. We had other organizations involved. Are they going to be involved again in this process?
I think it's too early to say. The Bronx Clergy Coalition is, of course, still here, still around. Their activism is still here. Not as engulfing as it would have been 3 decades ago, right, when this issue was really, at its core. But again, community input, and of course that would include the Clergy Coalition as well.
Because if I remember, the community board had very little input. They were just saying, and it was Adeline Walker, who was the chair of the board at the time, who voted to have the Armory not, be under Borough President Diaz, that there not be the proposal of shops at the Armory, and they go for the ice skating rinks. Okay, so again, this is 12 years that it's happened.
And I would honestly go, further back than former Chairwoman Walker. I mean, this, again, sadly goes back about, 3 decades. There's been a full retail proposal. You mentioned the ice, ring proposal. Our former Councilman Copel, and there's been others that have supported this, thought about putting a sports center there. So there's been a variety of different proposals, and of course, over those decades, we've had different people involved and in charge of Community Board 7. So I just wouldn't stick it on this wall.
Well, Anthony, you're a few stones throw away from the Armory. What is it, maybe 20 blocks?
I'm about 15 minutes away.
Okay, what would you like to see in the Armory?
Oh, my God.
And if our audience has any suggestions, please send them in. The phone number is just past us, 718-822, whatever it was. And you can send them in. Hopefully our producer would put them on the bottom on the screen.
You know, Robert, and I'm saying this just right off the top of my head. 3 decades later, we live in a younger borough. And that includes a younger Kingsbridge. I've been told by a lot of the younger people at Kingsbridge, it's not that they don't believe in ice skating, they just don't want an ice skating.
No.
But they do want some type of sports complex. Now, other people involved, let me call them the adults, not the youth, they want sports too, but they of course want other things. So I really think it's going to be a very interesting series of meetings, and I do hope, to answer your question, there is a sports component. How that all gets worked out, no one knows yet.
Well, because if you remember, there are 5,000 seats in there that can't be touched. There are certain things inside the Armory that cannot be touched because it's a national or it's a historical monument.
Right.
So certain things cannot be touched in that Armory. You cannot take one of those towers down from the outside. That's a historical monument. So, and 5,000 seats will be there no matter what. Right. So, do you want to make it a 1-level sports complex, 2, 3? This was what, 4 levels, the ice skating rink, some more?
Correct.
Okay, so do you want 1 ice skating rink maybe? Do you want basketball courts? Do you want a soccer?
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely convince you.
Okay, we're back, Anthony. I surely hope that now that we have advertising back, that Anthony and I get our little few pennies from it too, that we didn't get, but now that we have the advertising back, and it looks like we're a little more than our halfway part. So let's finish up on the Armory, and hopefully.
Robert, I was going to mention before the commercial. The only reason I'm going to bring this up is because a minute ago when you talked about the Armory, you were mentioning it in regards to floors, and I would remind you that in one of these proposals, which I actually think today is a good idea. When it first was presented, I didn't think it was a good idea, but actually today I do, is that they want to make the first floor, the underground first floor, a parking lot. And of course, it's been rejected, through the proposals over the years. But I would honestly hope that it does become a parking lot, because again, 3 decades later, we have a much younger borough, we have a lot of cars, and they need a place to park.
Well, it's a 500-spot parking lot, Anthony. That's what it was. And
it was, right. See, but that's the key point, was.
Right. You have the subway right next to the Armory. That would be a good point to be a parking lot where the city can make money from the parking lot, and people would use mass transit. instead of their cars. You're 100% right. And that would be during the day. Hopefully, we would have events there that we, who knows? You're a wrestling, former wrestling writer. We might be able to have a wrestling match or two there, some concerts or whatever. Again, it's up to the community. I just hope that one or two people don't say, well, I want this, and that's what it's going to be. But I hope that there is a total input there might have been before. Let's move on away from the Armory, because it's in Councilwoman Sanchez's district right now. And we're coming up to a subject of redistricting. And what did I tell you, Anthony, a month ago? I said the first lines would come out, they would be rejected. Then they would have a second set of lines come out, they would be rejected. And the members of the Assembly and the State Senate would draw their own lines. All right. And this is what's happened 10 years ago. And this is why we got the districts now. And if you look at some of those maps that were rejected, the state Senate districts are dramatically different. We have Senator Biaggi going from the 34th Senate district to the 37th, cutting out parts of Throgs Neck that she doesn't want in the South Bronx, going across to Riverdale and up into Westchester County where she wants to go. Right now, she only has Pelham.
What you're looking at are the district maps of 2030. It will now give the muckety-mucks 10 years to do what they really want to do. Because we're now at the last minute stage, we will, of course, have, as I said all along, very minor changes.
Well,
so
again,
one or two blocks might get adjusted here and there. Some of the slithery areas might finally get consolidated. Some consolidated areas might get a little slithery. But it's only going to be 2-3 blocks at the most. It's not going to be neighborhoods as these rejected maps, which you and I know that about 1/3 of political Bronxites have been creating all types of, I won't use the 4-letter words on air, strategy based on rejected maps. Okay.
No.
But it will allow the powers that be 10 years to get the appropriate legislation, to put together the appropriate envelopes, to have the appropriate conversation to make those maps real in 2030.
Well, what it is, Anthony, is there's going to be one congressional district lost up in upstate New York where the population declined. Here in New York City, our population increased. And as far as the congressional lines, they have to move up. So, and there's reports that now that since the districts have to get a little bigger or be moved, that it's a great way to take out some Republicans, especially Malliotakis out in Staten Island. She has Staten Island, part of Brooklyn. So let's redistrict her into more of the Democratic rich Brooklyn district. And hey, Max Rose can run again and defeat her. So you'll have Congressman Max Rose back in there as a Democrat. Upstate, I'm sure that district that's going to be going is a Republican district. And they'll try
again, I mean, don't get me wrong. Okay. I can understand the people in that district being very nervous about what you just said, because it's their district. But let me ask you a question. How many districts are in that borough, right? Let's say 10, right? It could be 9, it could be 11.
Where? Staten Island?
How many?
One congressional
Assembly district. No, Assembly district.
Assembly is about 2 or 3.
No, there's more than that.
It's a very small. There are only 50,000 people, Anthony, I think, or whatever.
Okay. My point is this: if you look at it from a borough, right? Let's use the borough of Bronx just as an example. All right, you got 9 or 10 assembly districts. As I've indicated a minute ago, you're going to move maybe 1 to 2 blocks each, right? So if you move 1 to 2 blocks each, times that by 10, what do you got? Well, now you've moved 20 blocks, right? Times that by 4 boroughs. What is that now? That's 80 blocks. I might call it 80 blocks. You know what the mayor would call that? A neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know for sure, Anthony, that your block, which is still in the 80th Assembly District, will probably wind up in the 78th Assembly District, so you can get more friendly with Jose Rivera, who's currently the Assemblyman.
Oh, the Admiral and I are great loving frenemies.
And it looks like they're trying to redistrict. And this is what always happens in redistricting. Certain people who the quote unquote organization doesn't like get redistricted out of their district. And I believe that the district leader from the 80th Assembly District, who is on the so-called fringe area, like you, will be also redistricted out. And I've been told to, pull out of the race for district leader and support the person that county wants, Mr. Remy Sally.
Bob, I want to just comment on the top part of that because, in full disclosure, I spoke to one of the one of the party officials in the 80th this morning that off the record asked me that question, and I emphasize off the record, so I'm not going to mention their name, and asked me that question about whether I believe the male district leader has that type of concern. My own belief, as I shared with that person, is no, I don't believe he does have a concern. I do believe that, again, you've got a 2-3 block radius that every elected official can fool around with. So the real question is okay, where do I execute those 2-3 blocks? Now, I'm only guessing, but the logical place is for Bedford Park. Why? 2 reasons. Number one, over 90% of Bedford Park, which used to be the 80th, is now the 78th, so you might as well take those 2 blocks and just turn them into the 78th. And number two, unlike 10 years ago when I thought it would have happened then, well, now you get rid of people like myself and Mr. Richard Delano and all the actors that have been for the last 20 years. Oh, or at least they think that's what's going to happen, but that's another conversation, right? So that makes sense. But to go on the other side, well, like I said, now, this is all last minute stuff. So that means you're going to take your 2 blocks and execute on it. You don't have time to negotiate anything else. So I believe it will be the Bedford Park area that will be consolidated. Right. And that part, the Jerome Gunhill part that you're referring to, will still be slithery until 2030.
Well, I don't think so, because like I said, this is when elected officials can get rid of people. For instance, our good friend Ricky Martinez, who unfortunately passed away, ran against Jeff Klein in 2000. So what happened in 2001? Ricky, at that time when he ran, Jeff Klein was the assemblyman from the 80th Assembly District. Ricky lived in the 80th Assembly District. The day after redistricting, Ricky wound up in the 78th Assembly District. That's why I say that. And like you say, almost majority of your area, except for your 2 blocks, wound up in the 78th.
Right, but let's go back to your same analogy. Okay, you said let's get rid of the person that threatens us the most. Right, that's pretty much what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You tell me, in the course of the last 18 months, what type of threat has the male district leader been in the 80th Assembly District? He's been in not 1, but 2 races, of which between the 2 has gotten no more than 10% of the vote.
Right.
He has no affiliation of political activities in his own neighborhood of Norwood. As a matter of fact, in the last city council race of which he ran in, right, a brand newcomer, a newcomer to the whole district, not just Norwood, but everywhere, including Riverdale, Miss Mino Lauro, goes right into his neighborhood and basically takes it over. Now, this is a person that you're telling me the powers that be?
Right, but Anthony, as you say, he has the title. and it's called Re-elect Me. Okay, so you can't re-elect me if I'm not in the district. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just, as I said to everybody all along, if you want to waste your time knowing what those analogies are,
Anthony,
that's up to you. That's like for the last month, you know, today you're saying, oh, what would I say about the maps? Well, for the last month, you've been creating TV strategy on rejected maps, which I keep telling you,
Anthony,
so, I don't want to talk about somebody. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Made up.
You're right. He does have the title. So could he win again? Absolutely. It puts him in the game, right? He's defending his title, right? But let's go ask Big E what happened to his title, right? So, you know, we basically know what's going to happen. You're the one that always like to say that Benny and other people used to keep people in the race to block other people off, right?
Right.
So why couldn't this happen here? Who's so worried about 3% of a neighborhood vote that they're gonna, you know, oh, let's sit down because I want to cut him out of the district, right?
That was 3% of the council district, which how much of the council district is in the 80th Assembly District?
Robert, let me ask you a very simple question because you live on the east side of the 80th Assembly District. And the east side of the 80th Assembly District represents 75% of the vote.
Right now.
So, when was the last time you've seen your male district leader on the east side?
Let's see. I don't remember.
So, we do know when was the last time we saw him on the west side, which, by the way, only represents 25% of the vote, right?
Right now.
That was at the city council race, which he only got 3%, right? So we know what he's got on 25% of the vote. I'll ask you again, on the other 75%, right, which you claim to be very active in, right? Have you seen him at all?
Nope.
So why am I worried?
Well, yeah, but still, Anthony.
And I'm not talking about me, and I'm not talking about my organization, but you're claiming that people are sitting up in the middle of the night up in Albany, you know, sitting down because of Marco Sierra.
No, Anthony.
We gotta cut him out.
Anthony, the maps are already made up. It was reported
I told you months ago they were already made up.
Carl Hasty had a meeting with his assembly members, and he confiscated all of their phones and probably Jose Rivera's videotape machine. You know, his
I'm sure he did.
So nobody could take pictures of these maps.
That's cool. Okay. Well, not yet.
We know that Jose has already done that, where he's taped something and brought it out. And you know, Carl wasn't going to let that happen because these maps have already been made up, like you say. The redistricting committee said, well, we are unable to come up with a second set of maps. They couldn't meet the deadline, and everybody knew something like that was going to happen, and it would fall into the legislators' laps. Now, the problem is petitioning begins March 1st. 10 years ago, we had the state legislature make up congressional maps that were rejected and a judge had to draw them. Is that going to happen this time? There's not enough time before petitioning because they're coming out with their maps, in another week or so? And
it's been suggested, it's been suggested to have it done no later than Monday.
Right.
He's supposed to be in public. I presume they'll be public 3 to 5 days after.
They were supposed to make them public this afternoon.
No, I don't know.
Okay, which is why Carl Hasty is giving out some, merchandise there up in Wakefield with Assemblyman Dinowitz and Borough President Gibson and a few other people. Like I said, I was taking a trip up there.
What's he giving out? Some more AT&T stuff? Congratulations, Timmy.
No, it's not AT&T.
What's he giving out? What's he giving out?
Oh, it's PPE. It's, the normal stuff, food.
The normal stuff, okay.
Yeah.
He said the normal stuff, okay.
I'm just surprised that Kathy Hochul's not there. Because why? Because the turkey giveaway in Co-op City, she was there.
Right.
I mean, why would Kathy Hochul come to Co-op City for turkey giveaway and just be with, say, the county leader, Jamal Bailey, and the borough president then, and the speaker is not there, who are in the Bronx. That's the speaker's district.
You're talking about last year.
No, yeah, Thanksgiving.
Right, that was last year.
Yeah, so, I mean, things happen, and, politically, and like we know that the 82nd Assembly District is going to change. We know that certain
Robert, I think you should take what you just said a moment ago and really, dive into it for a moment. I'm not saying that Kathy Hochul and Carl Hasty have any problems. I don't know if they do or if they don't, but I do know this much. Kathy Hochul now has to deal with one of the founding fathers of the bail reform era. Okay, he's one of the founding fathers, and so are others such as Senator Bailey. Now, regardless of how you feel about it, obviously there's a segment of New Yorkers that are very upset about it. And Ms. Hochul has got to find a way to deal with Mr. Hasty on that, who so far has been very adamant. He has taken the Jumaane Williams approach, which is, no, we're going to keep it this way because any other way is violating civil rights.
Right. And
so maybe at this moment in time, and I'm just saying maybe because I don't know, maybe she doesn't feel like she needs to be in that type of.
Well, Mayor Adams is not going to let us do that. Mayor Adams has said, how come Kathy Hochul is not being involved in this? And why is the state Senate and the Assembly not doing anything? He has gone to Albany. He wants bail reform. Okay, he wants this no cash bail reform that let the judges have more leniency. That's not violating anybody's rights. Letting a judge say, well, maybe, okay, first offense, no problem, let him out. Second, okay. But I think that, remember the 3 strikes and you're out? Whatever happened to that? I think that's what they need to go back to. I mean, if a person is caught the 3rd time within X amount of period, there should be jail time. There has to be.
Robert, forgive me for laughing, but you're never going to believe what I just thought about when you mentioned them. Okay.
We're at the end of the show.
Show you how crazy our country has gone today, right? Who did we just elect into the Baseball Hall of Fame? A drug user.
Who?
Right? Let's call a spade a spade. He's a drug user. David Ortiz was a great baseball player, but he was also a PED user via the Mitchell report, which no one denies is not true. Okay? So this is what we, as a country, believe in today.
No, those are the sports writers who
no, this is our country that believes that. Right. There is an outcry right now that people want Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, Roger Clemens in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. There's an outcry. Just pick up the newspapers, look at the back page.
I agree.
An outcry to this.
I agree. Because it was not illegal back then when they were using it. And what do you say? I mean, look at Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was a drunk, or I shouldn't say that. Babe Ruth drank during Prohibition. So why is he in the Hall of Fame? Liquor was.
I don't disagree with you, Rob, but again, this is how hypocritical we are.
Right.
I'm a very big advocate of Pete Rose being in the Hall of Fame. I think that's got to be, no. We got to talk about on the field contribution. Okay, even if he betted on himself, at the end of the day, he still has to hit the ball.
He was betting on other teams.
I don't care what he was doing. At the end of the day, he had to hit the ball.
No. He has to be the exception because of the Black Sox scandal.
Bob, you can't allow, if you're going to allow, but again, you know what? You're making my point. You're actually making my point that in today's America, we allow scandal to be part of something like this, and then we're dictating what type of scandal is good, what type of scandal is bad, right? David Ortiz can get in the Hall of Fame, but A-Rod or Roger Clemens can't. Anthony, right? Try to explain the situation with Kurt Schilling, who just missed it to the fans in Arizona or in the fans in Boston.
In Philly. He was in Philly a long time, Schilling.
Right. But he was also on those other teams as well.
Right.
And recognized as the most valuable player in each one of those teams.
Right. But Anthony, 5 years ago, if you had 3 ounces of marijuana on you, you were arrested and you were going to jail, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Right now, if you solicit a prostitute, you can go to jail. All right. In 2 years, that might be legal, because that's what our state Senate and state legislature wants to do: legalize prostitution.
Bob, I don't want to mix apples and oranges. You mentioned marijuana. Let's stick to marijuana. Right now, I can show you on TV and up to a 1 ounce bag of marijuana, and as long as I make no reference of selling you any, it is therefore legal in the state of New York.
Mm-hmm. 3 ounces, up to 3 ounces.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll definitely double check that for future reference. Okay.
Okay. Let's wrap up the show because I know our credits will be winding up in a minute, our closing credits. So anything at the finale to say, Anthony?
I just want to wish our audience a happy weekend. Enjoy football. Be careful doing your income taxes. 347-575-5045 if anybody has any questions. And
let me just plug my blog before we go off, www.100percent.blogspot.com. COM. It's 100% 100%.blogspot.com, and that is my blog where you will see stories about a lot of different issues. And I have a daily update of COVID numbers from our governor's office, as well as many other press releases and events by our elected officials. You didn't talk about
your activities on Community Board 11 last night.
Oh, well, we're probably going to be cut off, but...
why do you want to sue the board and fire the district manager?
I am telling you that I could have been a district manager of Community Board 8. Miss Walker, who was chair of Board 7 at the time, asked me when there was a vacancy to apply for Board 7, the district manager's job. I refused. When politics... But why do you want
the district manager of Community Board 11, of which you live in, fired?
I don't want to be a district manager.
No, that's not what I'm asking you. You made public statements
because he's incompetent
to be fired. Why did you
want him to be fired? Because the district manager of Community Board 11 is incompetent. There is a 36-inch gas main that is coming right through Board 11. Nobody knows about it. And because the district manager does not have Con Edison at his district service cabinet meetings. All right. As a representative of former Councilman Andy King, and being at these district service cabinet meetings, the police don't attend the district service cabinet meetings. And when I asked at the precinct council, why don't you attend these district council meetings or even community board meetings, we're not told when they are.
According to your testimony last night, I just want to get it and see if I can catch up as much as I can. So according to your testimony last night, it's that you sort of implied that the district manager is picking and choosing who can sit on different committees, and
yes, and you sort of as a matter of fact, that is correct.
On that, can you?
The chair and the chair of the committee decide who is on committees. What happened at the last housing committee? He said, "No, Mr. Press is not on the committee because I didn't get any paperwork." It is not up to the district manager to decide who is on a committee or who is a community board member. And he is, I am told that he has asked people to sit on the board and apply for the board. And if those people do, that is a conflict of interest because they then have to vote on matters affecting the chair of the district manager.
You asked the board last night to go into executive session to have that discussion.
Yes.
How did it go?
Because he has written and publicly stated on Facebook that I am looking to get his job, which I am not. All right. That is an offense that they can fire him for. The former borough president sent me down to a community board to watch as they fired that district manager. And don't forget, I was on Community Board 8 when we let go of our district manager, all right, and brought in a new district manager. Okay, it was the associate, and unfortunately, the associate didn't work out. And
I don't know if I would say she was let go in the first place, but okay.
Well, and the associate was overwhelmed by the position, and a little time later, unfortunately, she left. Okay, this is exactly what's happening on Board 11. You had a strong district manager, John Frater, who had Jeremy as an associate. John Frater left. Jeremy took over the position, and Jeremy has been overwhelmed by the position. Jeremy Warnicki is not a good district manager.
How long has he been the district manager?
Wait. If
no,
our
but how
borough
long has he been the district manager there?
Tony, if our borough president, Vanessa Gibson, is listening to this, okay, Tom Lucania is right now the person in charge of community boards at the borough president's office. Tom Lucania came from Board 11, okay? Tom Lucania and I have had different correspondence where Tom Lucania has said, yes, Mr. Press is right, this board acted illegally, or this board shouldn't have done that, all right? So I know about community boards, and if Ms. Gibson, Borough President Gibson was smart, and Tom Lucania, if he wants to leave, she would have me replace Tom Lucania as the liaison for community boards from the borough president's office. I am not kidding you on that.
What did Community Board 11 say last night when you asked for executive session?
What's that? What happened?
When you asked for executive session, what was their answer to you?
What was their answer? There was no executive session because it appears that the district manager, Warnicki, is suing Community Board 11 for lack of payment. All right. He thinks he should get more money as a district manager, I've been told. All right. And board members, he has curried favor with them. Dion, no district manager below Tremont. Community Board 3, 1 and 3. Well,
I want to stay on this topic, but let's just hope and pray that our former co-host, Mr. Below Tremont, Dion Powell, finds his appropriate community board district manager or assistant job in the Below Tremont area. Now, to get back to Community Board 11.
Okay, well, Anthony, if it wasn't for politics, I would have been the district manager of Board 8. As you know, Jeffrey Dinowitz put in Mike Keller as a district manager, and 3 months later, he quit before they could fire him.
But how long was Jeremy, Jeremy's still there, so how long has Jeremy been the district manager?
Why? How long has he been there? Well, I'll tell you this. In 2015, I went to the borough board meeting with the agencies. I was there. I sat next to George Torres, who said to me, what am I doing here? I'm not a district manager or a board chair. And at the end of the day, he said to me, you know, it's a good thing you're here. You know what you're talking about, because I let 4 agencies have it. And finally, Community Board 8 that year got the funding for the library, the Van Cortlandt Village Library. They got a new police van, and the fire department got a new generator. So I got 3 out of 4 items that I wanted. Okay.
But how long has Jeremy been there?
He's been there since, I really don't know how long he's been there, but he was the district manager when I was at this budget negotiations with city agencies.
And how long, you said 2015?
Yeah, and he sat there like a bump on a log. All right, he had to be asked, what is your priorities? And he said, well, we want streets repaved. Basically, that's the only thing that he was talking about, streets being repaved.
Was there any, and again, I'm just curious, were there any board members, since you didn't go into executive session, were there any board members there that heard your testimony and made any comments?
Everybody heard it. Nobody made a comment. I'm told people are afraid of Jeremy. I'm told, and I could say it this way as a reporter, I've been told that he tapes conversations with board members. He has taped, and the old board members who basically wanted to get rid of him, he taped conversations, had them say things. This is what I've been told. All right, so I could say this here on the air. I've been told that he's taped conversations and used it against certain board members, and they resigned because of that. And you saw that over the past couple of years, there's been a great many of the older board members resign. And I believe there's going to be a couple resigning this year who won't reapply for Board 11. And is it because of Jeremy? I don't know. And again, Mr. Powell, if you have so many openings, why don't you apply for one? All right, that's our comment up here. We're running over,
Mr. Powell, for commenting, period, and we encourage everybody to comment.
And Mr. Powell, if you want to comment, you can come back on the show.
Best of luck as he progresses into his, I don't know what to call it, community board avalanche of job applications that I'm sure we've got on standby. Good luck, Dion. So then, just to sort of end the conversation, do you feel, based on your testimony last night, that there'll be a board follow-up?
Well, what it is, Tony, is the board members are not allowed to go to the district service cabinet meeting, so they don't know what goes on. And there hasn't been minutes of the district service cabinet meeting for the past 3 years. He just puts out a district manager note or report. There's been no minutes of a district service cabinet meeting because nobody attends it. I know that because I did when I represented Councilman Andy King. The police weren't there, the fire weren't there. The only people there was EMS, was FE from DEP, but we were at a meeting before, and anybody who was at a meeting before, which was the Pelham Parkway Task Force, all right, to make sure they're doing the right thing on Pelham Parkway. But, and I'll say this, that the contractor had to put in the northbound main roadway, knowing that Con Edison was coming through with their gas main. And what happened? Con Ed came through with a 36-inch gas main, put a 6-foot gap in the new foundation, filled it with just dirt, and you now have the 6 foot depression. All right, and this is
Robert, there is one